Jeanette, in this section, I'd like for us to discuss one of the more popular things that adults and parents do to misbehaving children. And that is, they say, "Why did you do that?" So let me ask you a question. Why should we avoid asking why when it's involved in a misbehaving situation?
Well, if you ask me why, I'm going to give you an excuse.
Okay. If it's about your behavior.
If it's about my behavior, or I'm going to deny that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But once you understand choice theory, you know that all behavior is purposeful and motivated internally by those 5 basic needs: survival, love, power, freedom, and fun. So we know why it was to meet a need. We also know that it's the best attempt at the time to get something that they want. And so, rather than say why, ask what, who, when, have questions. What did you want when you chose that behavior? What did you choose to do? And when I'm talking about doing, I'm thinking about what were you thinking and how did you choose to act? And is that an acceptable behavior or an unacceptable behavior? You get a lot more information by asking those questions than you do by why.
And basically, I think you've summarized, if we can make it a little clearer. I don't know if the viewers can see on my shirt these 4 simple letters that I believe you've covered in what you just said. Let's go back over those to make sure it's clear. So instead of asking, why were you late? Why do you have a messy room? Why are you being ugly to your sibling?
You would ask what?
The W stands for?
What do you want?
What are you wanting?
And when you think about what you want, you think the other person ought to know what you want, but they don't have enough information. So they're asking the W question, what do you want, to get more information to see if it is a realistic want where that child is at the time. That want would be more of a want that's not possible to get at that time. And the next D is you want to know if they're aware of what they're doing. What do you want and what are you doing? And when we talk about doing, we're talking about, again, what are you thinking and how are you choosing to act?
You're back to those wheels again of the car.
And then you're asking them, is your behavior that you're choosing right now helpful to you or to anyone else? Is it helpful or hurtful?
Right. Because sometimes a teen may say, well, I feel better when I do this. They may feel better, but the people around them don't feel better.
Well, all of these concepts, again, is based on responsibility. We're trying to teach them to take responsibility for their actions and their thinking, because we're teaching about the choices we make are either leading us toward what we want or away from what we want. We're either choosing responsible behaviors or irresponsible behaviors. And when we ask, is it helping or hurting, we want them to become aware. There might be a little bit of a payoff at the time, but it's hurtful in the long run. And then we want them to come up with a plan. And when we talk about a plan, we want it to be a very simple plan and something they can achieve and something that they will do immediately, something they'll start doing, not a stop doing, because you can't stop behaving. And when you look at the plan, you want not only to be a simple, attainable, and something you can measure, but you want them to do it immediately and do it contingent upon what they do, not what another student does or another person does.
Can we give our viewers that simple word? I believe it's called SAMIC.
SAMIC.
Right. Okay. The S is simple. A, something they can obtain. The M is measuring. If I say, okay, I'll study more, we want to know how much more. How much time are you going to contribute to this activity? I is the immediate, and then the C, as you mentioned, controlled by the person doing the plan. I don't want to make a plan contingent on somebody, waiting on somebody else to do something.
The other thing about those plans, too, it's very important you have a check back time.
Right.
To check back to see how you're doing. Are you on task? Are you going in the right direction? To let them know that you're interested, because if somebody checks back to see if you're keeping your plan and you've made a commitment, then they know that you are really interested in them. It helps to build a good relationship.
Right. Yeah, none of these questions are going to be very effective if there's a lot of angering and sort of a power struggle. So, and I would like to demonstrate something now, Jeanette. Can I give you some instructions? And this may help demonstrate what happens a lot between teens and their parents. I'm going to give you a simple instruction. Are you okay just touching the end of my fist here for just a minute? So here's what I'd like for you to do is, I promise, Jeanette, I'm not going to hit you. But when I place my fist toward you, what I'd like for you to do is just place your open hand against my fist. Okay? Are you ready? Okay. Now, did I say, Jeanette, for you to push back?
No.
But by instinct, what do we do without even thinking? It's a habit. When somebody pushes us, we push back. So that's frequently the things I see between parents, between people, between our nation, is we tend to spend a lot of time pushing each other. Can we try one more thing? You make a fist, Jeanette. As soon as I put my hand against your fist, you start pushing. Ready? Push. Now you chose to stop pushing. Why?
It wasn't working.
Yeah.
Because you were stepping back away from my fist.
Right.
And as you moved back, then I kind of stopped my fisting.
Right. Now there's no way we can control anybody, and there's no guarantee if we stop pushing somebody else that they will stop. But that example is real good to demonstrate that even on instinct, when you saw I wasn't pushing you back, I mean, you could have kept coming and pushed me till I hit the couch, but you chose to stop because it wasn't helping. It wasn't working for you. So that's something I like to ask parents to think about. Are you pushing on your teen? And definitely a good teenager, when we push on them, we can pretty much expect them to push back. And there's certain times that we want them to push back. For example, if somebody out there says, take drugs or do this irresponsible behavior, we want our teens to push and not do that. So there's a good reason to
push or back away from the person that's trying to influence you in a negative, harmful, hurtful way. But that's a good example.
I like to demonstrate that of how we act on instinct and what they say these days. Our scientists are telling us, if I want to change a behavior and get it from a behavior that I just do every once in a while to a behavior that's almost automatic, like us pushing on each other, it can take up to 30 days, 30 to 40 days for that to become automatic. So we want our parents to be aware it takes some time to incorporate these ideas that we're trying to share. So one other thing I'd like for us to do now to help to give parents another option besides the punishing, the criticizing, the complaining, the blaming, all those deadly habits. We've mentioned it briefly in another session, but let's go over real clear the steps of the solving circle.
Okay.
I've got these on a little card here, and the first one is asking permission.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we want to do that before we had a meeting with our team?
Well, anytime you ask someone, you're sharing the power.
Mm-hmm.
But when you tell someone, you've got the power,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're already feeling powerless over a situation, even if they want to do it and you've told them to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a good relationship with that person, they're going to withhold from you what
Right.
you want to do
Mm-hmm.
in order to get their power need met. So asking permission meets your needs and the other person's need. You're also demonstrating that we all have choices to
Mhm.
do or not to do, and we can't make anyone do anything.
Right. So if I wanted to meet with you and you said now's not a good time, I could ask when would work for you. The second one is something good. Try to focus at the beginning of the meeting what's something I appreciate. Why is that important, Jeanette?
Because without the relationship, and the relationship is based on working with someone where you are listening to them, you appreciate them, you're encouraging them, you are sharing some of your thoughts about them, and it feels good to the person for you to tell them something you appreciate about them, and they move toward you rather than away from you.
As we've discussed before, our brains are sort of wired for good reason to be negative. So this helps set the tone for our meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing we have is asking each person to say, here's what I want. And I know you were mentioning earlier, that's sort of the me part of the solving circle. Let me tell you, son or daughter, here's what I want. And the team would also say what I want. What's important to remember when we're talking about that wants?
Well, the wants is driving your acting and thinking, and it's steering you in the direction of something. And your feelings and physiology is just following along. So a lot of those wants that people want are unacceptable wants in the situation, because some of those wants can be harmful
Right.
wants. And it helps a person that you're asking to self-evaluate. What do you really want? And if you get what you want, what will you have and what will you be? So they will see the usefulness of working toward a want that would be acceptable for both parties.
Right. The next step, step 4, and we're saying these are steps. Certainly you could pull any of these out and use them individually or any combination. But on step 4, I like to call this, my card says check for understanding and reflection. I sort of call this the McDonald's drive-through. What did I order? It's so helpful when we're going through a fast food restaurant to hear what you've ordered to make sure it's correct. Why would we need to do that in our conversation when we're talking about wants?
Because we all live in our own perceived world, and we perceive the world around us according to the knowledge we already have. And when you ask these questions, you're getting more information, and that's all you can ever get is information. But also the person that is listening and talking with you, they're getting some information too, because often we're not aware of our self-talk. And we're not really aware too much of what is it we really want. Because we have conflicting wants at times. And recognizing they're going to have to give up something in order to get something else.
I think another important reason for this is if we're under a lot of fear, if I'm under a lot of fear, I may not hear a word you're saying because I'm so involved in my head of what's going on with me. So I think that's another good reason to make sure in our meetings that we're sharing with each other. You would say something, then I would say, what I heard you say, Jeanette, is you want this, and then you would do the same with me. Step 5 is we complete the sentence, here's what I'm going to give to help us. What could you say about that?
Well, it means that no matter what you choose to do, I realize the relationship is the most important part of this solving circle. And without a relationship, you're not going to be able to influence or persuade anyone to do anything. And we know you can't make them do anything. So I'm going to step inside that circle and tell you what I'm going to give. On the outside, I'm saying what I want to get. But when I step in, I'm willing to do this regardless of what you do. If you're not ready to commit to doing something, at least I've let you know the relationship is very important to me.
And our final step, as we've mentioned before, would be step 6, the follow-up meeting. Accepting, revisiting, and continuing to focus on that, improving that relationship. Is there anything else would we want to make sure we do in that follow-up meeting?
Start off with giving some positive information about some of the things that I perceive is happening that's helping the relationship from my point of view. You might not have that same point of view, but I'm sharing my point of view and striving to find out what the other person is thinking.
We're hoping our parents will see that this is a much better choice, this solving circle, than what we typically do as parents in trying to help our teens be more responsible.